Welcome back to the Customer Success Festival. Before we get going with the next helping of inspiring content, we'd love to take a moment to thank our sponsors for helping us bring this event to your screens. And don't forget, you can access even more content from exclusive articles and interviews to all the past and future events on demand, as well as templates and frameworks by becoming a CSC member. Enjoy the next session.
Hey everyone, I'm Sri, one of the founders of a company called Rocket Lane. And today we're going to chat about how do you measure how well you're doing on customer onboarding. Now, firstly, why is onboarding an important topic for all of us? I think as folks in customer success, you're being measured on your NRR and you're being asked to get the customer to value faster. So here's why this matters, right? So if you have a new customer, the first partnership that they're going to experience with your team is really this onboarding and implementation journey, right? If you do a sloppy job here, it probably means you're on the back foot from get-go, and you're going to have to win the customer's trust back before you can have any sort of conversation around expansion and renewals. Versus if you do a great job, if you're able to impress the customer during your onboarding, then you can probably have your expansion conversation even while that first implementation is ongoing, right? So that's the difference. It's going to really impact your churn. It's going to impact your NRR. So let's get started here. Here's what customer onboarding can feel like, right? So it can be sort of hit or miss. If you ask your last 10 customers how they felt the onboarding was, I'm sure some of them will say it was a great experience. Things, happened really fast. It was smooth. Someone else is going to say, hey, it was a nightmare to work with this company, right? So I'm sure all of you are facing this. To me, it sometimes feels like this. Right? It feels like a Jenga game because, there are a lot of people who need to get their act right through the different phases of this onboarding journey, right? And if someone moves a wrong piece, the whole thing can fall, and it's going to reset the whole game, right? It's going to reset that journey. It's going to put you on the back foot. So everyone needs to move their pieces carefully, and it's a collaborative effort to make this happen. When you think back about how your team's onboarding used to be in early days, let's say that first customer that you were onboarding, I'm sure things were pretty bad, right? You probably told the customer very often, like entrepreneurs who are onboarding the first customers, tell the customer, hey, we can get this done in a few hours, right? And likewise, when you're starting on a journey, customer success journey with a company, I'm sure early days, your customer onboarding, you don't really have that playbook yet. You don't know what surprises you're going to encounter along the way. So, you discover the process along that journey. And slowly things get better, right? So you feel, hey, you know what? I'm using these spreadsheets. I'm doing this on like a Trello board. I have a grip on what our process is. We are able to deliver slightly better experience for the customer because, we have this playbook that we're following. So things are getting better. But guess what? There is always room for improvement, right? So what this graph is trying to show is that you may be here, right? And you may have moved all the way to here, and you might be feeling, hey, you know what? We're doing really well now. We have improved so much. But all of us know only so much about what we are improving on, right? So if you're not measuring what dimensions you're improving on, you may be putting more and more effort on one dimension and you reached a local maxima, but you haven't realized that, hey, there are things that are still in your control that you can improve, which are going to take you to a higher peak, right? So the way this happens, I would say, is maybe today you're focused on what tooling you're using, and you've really improved your tooling and visibility with the customer. And so you got to a certain local maxima. But guess what? If you do better expectation setting with the customer, if you run a better quality kickoff process with the customer, maybe you'll find this new peak. And so how do you know how well you're doing, right? So is there a way to get to understand a little more about your how well you're doing as a team that's onboarding new customers? Well, you need to do some sort of measurement to understand that, right? So you can't just look at, hey, here are things that we're doing before, we've improved, and so we are doing well. Yes, you've improved, but guess what? If you improve things on the same dimension, eventually your returns for the effort you put into that dimension start reducing, right? So you sort of have great results initially when you like start doing those new initiatives, but as you keep trying to enhance that initiative a little more, keep adding to it, your extra returns from doing that start reducing. And that's where really a maturity model comes in. So we have come up with version 1 of a maturity model and a maturity score, where really this is about exposing you to more dimensions along which you can measure how you're doing, right? So give you a way to score yourself on different dimensions. So here are the dimensions we're starting with: value orientation, customer experience and delivery, adaptability and organization, manageability and productivity. So we sort of identified these 4 dimensions as like a V0 of our own maturity model, where we have a quiz. You take this quiz, you get a score, and I'm going to encourage all of you to go and try this out, right? So that you have a good idea of where you stand and how you can improve on each of these dimensions. We'll come to these dimensions quickly now. So I'm going to introduce the model itself to you. And a little bit of context before that, this may apply a little more to onboardings where there's, it's going to take at least, 2.5, 3 weeks or more. So mid-market or, enterprise implementations. This model in itself is an early version. So it's going to, we're going to continue to evolve it based on all of your feedback. So feel free to write to us. I'm at sri@rocketlane.com. Also, we understand that the score on some dimensions may be low, and that may be okay, right? Because, your company stage demands that, you do things a certain way and you're not yet ready for scale. You're not yet ready to improve on a certain dimension, then that's fine. And lastly, for very mature professional services teams, we're not trying to score you on your like PS utilization, project profitability, etc. This is more for customer success teams doing the onboarding. So here's the scorecard, right? So this is, the set of questions along which we're going to score you. If you go to maturity-model.rocketlane.com, you can actually answer the questions over here. So we have a multiple choice option for you. You select those options, you get your score. But right now, let's focus on what this model itself is about, right? So there are 4 dimensions we've identified, as I already said. The first one is value orientation. Now, why is this important? I think very often you would have just won a large logo, and let's say you got Nike as a customer, and you finished onboarding them. Now your marketing team is like, hey, wow, we got Nike and they're live with us. Can we do a case study? You say, yeah, sure. Let me introduce you to our contact. So you put them in touch, and your marketing team is trying to get something tangible from them, right? Like not just, oh, they're a great team to work with. Oh, we love their product. But you want them to say, hey, here's the ROI we got from your offering. Here's the value that this product was able to deliver. And guess what? The customer has no clue, right? And that's because what was missing through their journey was that value orientation. So what's value orientation all about, right? Firstly, are your teams able to articulate value the same way, right? So what did the sales team sell the customer? And during onboarding, are you talking about the same value? Are you focused on the same aspects of value delivery, right? Are you enabling that same value for the customer that was discussed before? And are you able to help the customer realize that they're getting that value? What that also means is, actually measuring the value, right? So you can't just say, hey, here's how we are adding value. You need to have measured how things were done before, and hence when you change things around, what sort of value have you enabled, right? You saved so much time for the customer, for each person on the customer's team. So that means here's the value, here's the dollar value or dollar impact they saw. You increase the number of leads for them, right? It was X before, it is Y now. So much more business, right? You increase the conversions that happen for them as like a maybe marketing optimization product. What does that mean for them in dollar terms? So there's various kinds of products for which the value is going to vary. So make sure you're measuring your impact. Also, measuring and benchmarking your time to value, right? So you agreed what the value is. Are you also looking at how quickly you got the customer to that value, right? So it might not be the entire value, but even part of the value. Again, on an ongoing basis, today, quite often, all of our products, we use this whole land and expand sort of way to work with customers. So you may have landed and maybe in the first 60 days, there's a certain value that you expect customers to get. But after that, in the next quarter, are you again expanding with them on your use case, or, going live with more modules? Is the value increasing, right? So that's something you can look at as well. Have a cadence saying, hey, maybe it's 30, 60, 90 days. Maybe it's, 2 months, 6 months, 9 months that you're measuring. But are you measuring the ROI? And are you, when you do that, your renewal conversation is so much easier, right? So your expansion conversations can start as soon as, the first 60-day value is delivered. You can say, hey, you already done this. We want to do more with you. And is the whole engagement starting with a value or goal-based sign-off, right? So that's also important, because otherwise there's going to be scope creep. There's going to be harder conversations with the customer, given that no one really agreed that, hey, this is what we are buying you for. This is the value we're going to see, right? If you have that agreement on what the value is, your conversations around, hey, we also need this to work this way, or hey, this integration is missing, all of that goes away when you're able to say, hey, but this is the value we agreed on. So this integration is not important for us to deliver this value, right? So that's how value orientation helps you. Now we'll go into dimension 2, which is customer experience and delivery, where you might have had like a pretty chaotic way of working initially, just spreadsheets and emails back and forth with like a list of to-dos, but you may be able to move towards a beautiful plan that you've put together for your customer. So here's what we're looking at, right? So firstly, do you have that nice onboarding plan and live status, right? So you have this broken down into nice phases with themes where, like, week 1, you're going to focus on kickoff and goal sign off, right? Week 2, we're going to do like the basic setup and configurations and have an initial team get started with us for one use case, perhaps. Week 3 is where the full implementation, integrations, data migrations start. Maybe it's week 3 and week 4. And then week 5 is where you do like a full-fledged training. Maybe there is a reverse demo from the customer. So, it's really about going live with the whole customer side audience, including like a UAT, whatever, right? So this could be a beautiful way for you to put together a plan. And is there visibility for everyone on how you're tracking on those themes week on week, right? A live status around it. Do you have like clear expectations set and sign-offs with the customer everywhere? So this is about, when expectations are not set well, that leads to the most frustration with the customer. So customer experience and delivery is all about saying, hey, I want the customer to feel in the know all the time. They shouldn't feel, hey, things are in the dark. I don't know if I'm doing the right things or not. I have like 6 weeks before my current vendor's contract runs off, right? Am I going to be able to make it in time? You don't want them nervous about it. You don't want them stressed about it. So you want to make sure that you give them that live status. You're communicating with them, not throwing surprises at them, right? And of course, even things like how you're going to communicate. Do you have like a early protocol set on, hey, here's the cadence in which we'll be publishing status updates to you. Here's when we will escalate something. You don't want to suddenly throw the customer under the bus saying, hey, because of you, we've had like a 3-week delay when they didn't even know, or you weren't necessarily chasing them about it. So set your rules of engagement pretty early, right? And measure how you're doing. Like, what are the timelines committed? Are you delayed? Are you on track? If you did a workshop with them, if you did a training session, if you did a kickoff, are you collecting feedback on how they felt it went, right? So you don't want them to have that negative sentiment around, hey, this training was useless for me. It didn't really talk to my use case, and you don't know about it till someone escalates or till after go live. Instead, get that feedback, get that CSAT at the key junctures, key delivery of key milestones that are delivered, right? So that's important too. Lastly, are you also measuring the customer's effort that goes into the whole experience, right? So the whole journey, if they feel they're having to do too much, they're gonna, talk about it to others. If someone asks them, how was it to work with your company? They're gonna say, hey, it was really hard to work with them, right? It was really hard to go live. I had to do so much. It was stressful. Instead, you want to figure out how to make it easier for them, either like creating better playbooks or having automations where needed. Maybe how do you make migration smoother? How do you help them get the work that you put on their plate done better, right? Often we need inputs from the customer and they may not have it. So do you have some amount of services to bridge that gap and help them not feel helpless during the process? So that's about customer experience and delivery. So there are obviously 2 more dimensions, but I don't think we'll have the time to talk about all the dimensions here. So the next 2 dimensions, I'm not going to spend time on them, but I'll just show you what it's about. Adaptability and args. This is about ensuring that your plan is not rigid, but instead it changes based on the maturity of the customer, their industry, their use cases, their goals, etc. Right? It's about having a maturity around your planning, right? So you have the right templates for like documents that you use, for plans that you use. Do you have like a specialized onboarding team? And this may not be the case for an early stage company. Customer success has to do onboarding as well, but this is a maturity model. So your org maturity may be low if you're an early stage company, and that's perfectly fine, right? Do you have implementation partners? Again, based on org maturity, you may not even want that early on because you need to learn, you need to get the insights on what's the right playbook for your team. Dimension 4, it's about measuring and hence managing things better and getting more productive. And this is again about like, do you have metrics that you're looking at on how your different teams or different people on the team are doing? Do you have a way to monitor and see, hey, are we complying to that playbook that we established, right? Do you have a way to look back and iterate on your methodology to know that you're making progress, you're improving with every onboarding? Do you have a strategy towards automating more to ensure that it's not all human dependent in terms of the experience you're delivering? And of course, project management related automation as well. So this covers like what we were looking at. Hope you all like this. Hope you're going to go back and take our quiz at maturitymodel.rocketlane.com. It's going to give you your score on each dimension, and you will, by just taking the test, understand where you can really improve, what you can get better at. If you have any questions, feedback, write to us. You can write to me at sri@rocketlane.com. And we do have a community around customer onboarding, success, and implementations, even professional services teams. So join us here. Preflight is the name of the community, preflight.cx. So would love to see you all here. Thank you. And we are open to questions now.